I parked my car in a spot where I wouldn't be immediately noticed and calmly watched as my cheating wife, Jessica, headed into the clinic with her lover. My hands clenched the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, but I forced myself to breathe, to stay in control. This wasn't the time for an outburst. No, this was the time for precision, for destruction. Without wasting a second, I picked up my phone and dialed the number I had found just the night before, Mark's wife, Lisa. The phone rang twice before she answered, her voice casual, unsuspecting. "Hello? Lisa, listen to me carefully," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. "Right now, your husband and my wife are at the clinic getting an abortion to cover up the consequences of their little affair. If you hurry, you can catch them red-handed." A sharp inhale on the other end. Silence. Then. "You're lying." I almost laughed at how fast people go into denial when faced with the ugly truth. "I wish I were." A choked sob. Then her voice turned cold. "Where?" I gave her the clinic's address and hung up. My heart pounded, but I didn't move. Not yet. I wanted to see their faces when reality hit them like a truck. Just 24 hours ago, I had been clueless. A happily married man, or so I thought. I had no idea my wife had turned into a lying, cheating, heartless bitch who was sneaking around with some other guy behind my back. But last night changed everything. It started with something small, Jessica's phone, left carelessly on our nightstand while she was in the shower. A single notification lit up the screen. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Love you." A punch to the gut. I stared at the message, my brain scrambling to make sense of it. Maybe it was just a friend? Maybe it wasn't what it looked like? But deep down, I already knew. My hands moved on their own, opening her phone. What I found? A cesspool of betrayal. Texts. Calls. Secret meetups. Hotel receipts. And worst of all, pictures. Pictures of them together, pictures of them laughing, touching, kissing. Pictures that shattered the illusion I had been living in. My body went numb. I scrolled and scrolled, each new revelation cutting deeper. Then I saw it, an appointment confirmation from a women's clinic. An abortion. That's when I realized just how deep this betrayal ran. Not only had she been sleeping with him, but she had gotten pregnant with his child. And now, they were getting rid of the evidence like it was nothing. My vision went red. My heart pounded like a war drum. But I didn't do anything rash. Not yet. Instead, I planned. And now, here I was, watching the biggest mistake of my life, walking into that clinic with the man she betrayed me with. I didn't have to wait long. Minutes later, another car came screeching into the parking lot. Lisa stepped out, her face a mix of fury and devastation. She didn't hesitate, she stormed into the building, ready to unleash hell. I leaned back in my seat, a smirk forming on my lips. This was only the beginning. What came next? That's where things got really interesting. I watched through the windshield, pulse steady, as Lisa stormed into the clinic. She was about to find out exactly what kind of man she married. And Jessica? Oh, she had no idea what was coming for her. A part of me, the part that still wanted to believe in the woman I married, half expected her to deny everything, to make excuses, to spin some pathetic lie. But after what I saw last night, I knew better. Jessica wasn't just a liar. She was a master manipulator. My phone buzzed in my hand. A text from Jessica. "Running errands, be home soon. Love you." Love me? Love me? I let out a laugh, sharp, bitter. The same fingers she used to type that message had just been laced with another man's, just wrapped around his arm as they walked inside that clinic together. I didn't respond. Instead, I stepped out of my car and made my way toward the entrance. I wanted to see their faces. I wanted to watch it happen. As soon as I stepped inside, I heard voices. Raised. Heated. A woman's voice, Lisa. You disgusting piece of trash. You knock up my husband, and this is how you deal with it. Silence. Then Jessica's voice, sharp and defensive. Lisa? What the hell are you doing here? Oh, don't play dumb, Lisa spat. Your husband called me. Guess what? He knows. Dead silence. I stepped forward, and as soon as Jessica turned and saw me, her face drained of color. Nathan. I held up a hand. Don't. Just don't. She blinked rapidly, scrambling to recover. I could see the wheels turning in her head, searching for a way out. A way to twist the story, manipulate the truth, make herself the victim. Mark, that spineless coward, took a step back like he was suddenly afraid for his life. Man, listen. Shut the hell up, I cut him off, my voice low, calm. You'll get your turn. Jessica reached for me. Baby, please, it's not what it looks like. I stepped back. Oh, so you didn't screw him behind my back? I gestured toward Mark. You didn't let him knock you up? You didn't come here to erase the evidence? Her mouth opened. Closed. Nothing. Lisa let out a sharp laugh. Come on, Jessica. Lie. It's what you're good at, right? Mark looked at his wife. Lisa, please. Don't you dare, she snapped, eyes flashing. You said you were on a business trip. You said you loved me. You said a lot of things, Mark. Turns out, the only thing you were screwing was her. Jessica snapped out of her daze and turned on me, face twisting into something ugly. You had no right to call her. I laughed. Laughed. After everything, this was what pissed her off. Not the affair. Not the betrayal. The fact that I exposed her. You're mad at me for telling the truth? I asked, voice dripping with disbelief. Jessica folded her arms, her whole demeanor shifting. The panic? Gone. The fake remorse? Vanished. Now, she just looked, annoyed. You're so damn dramatic, Nathan, she said, rolling her eyes. I was going to tell you. Lisa scoffed. Oh, please. Really? I asked, tilting my head. When? Before or after you climbed back into our bed after screwing him? Jessica huffed. Look, this isn't a big deal, okay? It was just fun. You act like I killed someone. I stared at her. Fun. That's all this was to her. Destroying our marriage. Lying to my face. Letting another man touch her, kiss her, claim her. And she had the audacity to look at me like I was overreacting. I stepped closer, voice eerily calm. You don't even feel bad, do you? She shrugged. Shrugged. Like this was some minor inconvenience, like I was some annoying customer complaining about bad service. Lisa turned on Mark. And you? You're just gonna stand there? Mark looked at the floor. Shut up. Just shut up. Lisa's voice wavered, but her stance didn't. She turned to me. You and I? We're getting lawyers. These two? They deserve each other. Jessica scoffed. Oh my God, you're both being so dramatic. Lisa lunged. I grabbed her just in time before she could claw Jessica's face off. Not that I would have stopped her if we weren't in public. Jessica flinched, stepping behind Mark like he could protect her. I exhaled slowly. You know what, Jessica? You're right. We are being dramatic. I pulled something from my pocket, a manila envelope, and tossed it onto the chair next to her. That's why I already filed for divorce. Her face froze. That got her attention. Lisa's eyes widened. Damn. You don't waste time. Why should I? I turned back to Jessica. Since you didn't have the decency to end things before screwing around, I decided to do it for you. Jessica's face flashed with panic. Nathan, wait. Save it, I said, already turning away. Go home and pack your crap. You have until the morning to get out of my house. Her voice turned desperate. Where am I supposed to go? I paused at the door, looking over my shoulder. Maybe Mark can take you in. Oh, wait. He still has a wife. For now. With that, I walked out. As soon as I hit the parking lot, Lisa let out a slow whistle. Damn. That was cold. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Yeah. You okay? I didn't answer. Because the truth was? I didn't know. I drove. No destination, no direction. Just the hum of the engine and the city lights blurring past. My hands clenched the wheel so tightly it felt like I might snap it in half. The anger was still there, burning, but underneath it, something else. Something colder. Jessica's face when she saw those divorce papers? That moment alone was worth every second of the planning. The way she thought she could play it off, act like it was nothing, like I was the one overreacting. Unbelievable. But I wasn't stupid. No way in hell she was going to walk away quietly. The buzzing of my phone pulled me back. I glanced at the screen. Jessica. I let it ring. Then a text. Nathan, let's talk. Please. Don't do this. Just come home. Home? That wasn't home anymore. It was just a house where a woman I didn't recognize slept in my bed, wore my ring, smiled in my face while lying through her teeth. Another text. You don't understand the full story. Let's just talk. The full story? Oh, I understood the full story just fine. She was a liar, a cheater, and the last thing she deserved was a conversation. I ignored the message and kept driving, my mind spinning with everything I had left to do. Jessica thought she could walk away from this and keep everything? The house, the money, her reputation? Not a chance. By the time I pulled into my driveway, it was past midnight. The house was dark, except for the faint glow of the porch light. I sat there for a moment, watching the house that used to feel like ours. Now, it was just another reminder of what she destroyed. I stepped out of the car, slamming the door harder than I needed to. The night air was cool, but my blood was still boiling. When I reached the front door, I hesitated. Something felt off. I pushed the door open. Darkness. Silence. But then, footsteps. Jessica stood in the living room, arms crossed, face tense. She had been waiting. You finally came home, she said, her voice carefully controlled. We need to talk. I shut the door behind me. No, we don't. Her jaw clenched. Nathan, I made a mistake, okay? But we can work through this. You're my husband. We don't just throw that away. I laughed. A short, humorless laugh. Jessica, you threw it away the second you let another man into our bed. I never. I stepped closer, cutting her off. Don't lie. Again. Her lips pressed together. Then she sighed, shaking her head like I was the one being difficult. You don't understand, Nathan. Things between us weren't perfect. I was lonely. You were distant. Mark was just there. Wow, I said, nodding slowly. So now it's my fault. She hesitated, eyes flickering. I didn't say that, but let's be honest, you haven't exactly been present. You're always working, always distracted. I felt like I didn't matter to you anymore. Right. And instead of talking to me, instead of working on our marriage, you spread your legs for another man? She flinched but recovered quickly. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that, I snapped. She dropped the fake remorse, her expression turning sharp. Fine. Maybe I made a mistake. But you calling Lisa? Telling her everything? That was low. I smiled. You haven't even seen low yet. Jessica's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? I pulled my phone from my pocket, tapped the screen a few times, and turned it toward her. A video. Of her and Mark. In the hotel room. Crystal clear. Her face went pale. Where did you get that? I shrugged. Doesn't matter. What matters is what I do with it. Her breath hitched. You wouldn't. You think I won't? I said, tilting my head. You think I won't send this to your friends? Your family? Your boss? Panic flashed in her eyes, but then she smirked. Smirked. You think you're so smart, she said, stepping closer. But you won't do it. You still love me. I laughed. Oh, Jessica. That's where you're wrong. Before she could say another word, I sent the video straight to Mark's work email. She gasped, lunging for my phone. You son of a... I stepped back. Oops. Jessica lost it. You think this makes you a man? You think ruining my life is going to fix anything? I met her glare with a calm, steady stare. I think it's going to make me feel a hell of a lot better. Her face twisted with rage. You'll regret this. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. No, Jessica. The only regret I have is not seeing you for the lying, cheating bitch you are sooner. She screamed something as I walked out, but I didn't care. Because for the first time in weeks, I felt free. I slammed the door behind me, cutting off the echo of her screams, the high-pitched fury that only someone who thought they had control could muster when it slipped through their fingers. I could feel her eyes on me as I walked to the car, her words echoing in my ears, but I didn't look back. Not this time. As I drove away, the weight in my chest began to lighten. Every mile I put between myself and that house, every passing second, the rage, the hurt, the betrayal, it all started to feel distant, like a bad dream that was slowly fading. But even with the freedom growing inside me, the nagging questions refused to go away. Was I making the right decision? Should I have done this differently? I pushed those thoughts aside, forcing my mind to focus on what I needed to do next. The pieces were falling into place, but there was more to be done. There were still things I hadn't finished. I pulled into a parking lot outside a small, nondescript building. I didn't even need to check the address, I knew what this place was. The back door opened before I even knocked, and the man who answered gave me a knowing look. Everything set? I asked. He nodded, stepping aside to let me in. Just like you asked. All the documentation's ready. The video's in the hands of the right people. It's already been sent to her friends, her family, her colleagues. The emails are circulating. I felt a sharp grin tug at the corner of my lips. Perfect. It wasn't just about the divorce anymore. This was about burning everything to the ground. She had betrayed me, humiliated me, lied to my face for months. The pain she'd caused wasn't something I could just erase. But I could make sure she felt it. I could make sure she realized, in the most brutal way possible, that actions have consequences. I want it all, I said, my voice low, but clear. I want every shred of evidence of what she's done. Every lie exposed. Every secret brought to light. Understood, the man said, his tone flat, but with a trace of admiration. He handed me a stack of documents. Divorce papers, financials, photos, proof of everything she'd done. I took it all, feeling a cold satisfaction settle in my chest. This was it. This was how I would end this. One more thing, I said, my eyes narrowing. Make sure Mark knows this is just the beginning. I want him to understand that when you mess with someone's life, you don't get to walk away unscathed. The man didn't hesitate. Consider it done. As I left the building, the weight in my chest had shifted again. This time, it wasn't the burden of betrayal, but something far sharper, satisfaction. I had control. I drove through the night, my mind spinning with plans, with revenge, with 1,000 scenarios where everything came crashing down around Jessica. She'd thought she could keep this secret, keep it hidden, but she had underestimated how far I would go to take everything from her. I didn't stop until I reached the hotel. The place was quiet, empty, exactly what I needed. I checked in under a fake name, got a key for a room on the top floor, and locked the door behind me. There was one final step I needed to take before everything played out. I pulled out my phone. Jessica. The text was short, blunt, and to the point. You'll never be able to run from this. Everyone knows. I hit send. I sat back on the bed, staring at the ceiling, the calm before the storm settling around me. She would be beside herself, pacing, trying to figure out what to do next. But it was too late. There was no way out. Minutes passed, and then the phone buzzed again. Her reply. What are you trying to do, Nathan? What do you want from me? I didn't answer right away. I didn't need to. She was already spiraling. And the best part was that she couldn't stop it. There was no excuse she could give, no apology that would undo the damage she'd done. All I had to do now was wait. A few hours later, another buzz. Please. Let's talk. We can fix this. I'll make it right. We can go back to how it was. I stared at the screen, a dry laugh escaping my lips. She was desperate now, scrambling for control. But there was no control left for her. It was over. Instead of responding, I blocked her number. Every call, every text, every plea, cut off in an instant. It was like a weight had been lifted. For the first time in what felt like forever, I was free. But as the hours ticked by, something else started to settle in. Regret. Not for what I'd done, but for the fact that it had come to this. I never thought I'd be that guy, the one who took revenge, who went out of his way to make someone else pay. I always believed in moving on, in rising above. But this? This was something different. Something that was no longer just about the betrayal. It was about the principle, about the lines she crossed. And now, I was done. The phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Jessica. It was Mark. I hesitated, but I answered. Listen, man, Mark said, his voice trembling. You've done what you had to do. But I'm not the only one who was hurt here. We were both played. I stayed silent. Look, if you want me to stay out of your life, I'll do that. But please, don't destroy my family. I have kids, Nathan. I laughed. Funny. I was thinking the same thing. About Jessica. How she destroyed my family. He didn't answer. The silence stretched on, thick and heavy. You should have thought of them before you slept with my wife, I said, my voice cold. Goodbye, Mark. I ended the call. And as I stood there, staring at the silent phone, I knew one thing, it was time to move on. Completely. I had no reason to look back. Nothing was left but the ashes. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone. It was still buzzing with messages, Jessica, Mark, even a few people I didn't recognize. But I couldn't bring myself to look at any of them. Not yet. Everything felt distant now, like I was watching a train wreck happen from miles away but was too far gone to feel the impact. What the hell was I even doing anymore? I ran my hand through my hair, feeling the cool night air slipping through the cracked window. It had been a few hours since I'd left that hotel, but the adrenaline still hadn't worn off. There was something unsettlingly quiet about it all. I had accomplished exactly what I set out to do. So why didn't it feel like enough? It was too late for remorse, too late for second-guessing. I had already burned every bridge, dismantled everything she thought she could hide. And yet, I couldn't shake this nagging sense of emptiness. Jessica didn't deserve my pity or my hesitation. She had made her bed, and now it was time for her to lie in it. I reached for the phone again, trying to ignore the growing ache in my chest. The last few messages blinked on the screen, but I clicked on one. "I don't want to lose you, Nathan. I'm sorry. Please. We can fix this. I'll do whatever it takes." Her words. The desperation. How quickly she had gone from the cool, dismissive wife to the broken woman begging for forgiveness. It was pathetic. Pathetic. And yet, the part of me that once loved her, deeply, unconditionally, ached. I tossed the phone onto the bed and stood up. This wasn't about feelings anymore. It wasn't about what I wanted or what she wanted. This was about what had to happen. This was about closure, about erasing the poison she had injected into my life for the past year. I couldn't let myself fall into that trap again. If I did, if I gave in to her pleas, to the twisted hope that maybe, just maybe, we could fix it all, I would lose everything. I would lose myself. The last few months flashed through my mind. The endless lies. The gaslighting. The late nights when she'd come home acting like nothing had changed, like everything was fine. All of it was a game to her. A cruel, calculated game that she had been playing from the start. I grabbed my jacket, zipped it up, and made my way out the door. The streetlights blurred past as I drove, my mind spinning. I wasn't even sure where I was going, but I knew I needed to move, to do something. I needed to act before my own thoughts tore me apart. Then the phone rang again. It was Mark. For a second, I considered ignoring it, but something in his voice when we last spoke had sounded desperate, like a man caught between his own destruction and a chance at survival. I took a deep breath and answered. "What do you want, Mark?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "Listen, his voice was thick, strained. "I'm sorry, man. I never wanted it to go down like this. I was weak. She manipulated me, Nathan. She played me. I couldn't help but laugh. You sound like you're trying to make yourself the victim now. You knew exactly what you were doing." "Yeah," he admitted. "I did. But it's not that simple, man. You know how things are with her. She—" "Don't give me that crap, Mark," I interrupted, my tone growing colder. "She's not the problem. The problem is you. You decided to sleep with my wife. You decided to help her destroy everything we had." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then, finally, he spoke. "What do you want from me, Nathan?" I didn't have an answer. At least not a simple one. What could he possibly give me now? "I don't want anything from you," I said finally, the words heavy. "But I promise you one thing, you're going to live with this for the rest of your life." "Look, man, I get it." "I'm sorry," Mark said, but the desperation in his voice made me feel nothing but disgust. I didn't respond. The line clicked dead. I tossed the phone into the passenger seat and continued driving. The city lights were starting to blur into something almost beautiful, but I didn't see it. I didn't feel it. There was a void where my emotions used to be, and no amount of driving or distractions could fill it. I thought about calling Jessica, confronting her one last time, telling her exactly how much she had wrecked everything. But I couldn't bring myself to. The truth was, there was nothing left to say. Nothing left to fix. She had made her choice. And I had made mine. I found a quiet spot by the edge of the city, parked my car, and sat there for what felt like hours. It was in moments like this that I realized how much I had changed. I used to be someone who believed in love, in loyalty. I used to believe that people could make mistakes and move past them. But not this time. Not with this. Maybe I had been naive before, but the man I was now had no room for second chances. Not for her. Not for him. They could both burn in the mess they had created. And me? I would walk away from it all. Clean, clear, free. The night was still, too still, and the weight of it pressed down on me. I didn't feel lighter, but I also didn't feel heavier. It was like I was floating, somewhere in between. Between what I thought I had and what I knew I'd lost. But I was done. I would be done. And nothing, could change that. The silence in the car was deafening as I sat, parked on that empty street corner. The night stretched out before me, an endless void that mirrored the emptiness I felt inside. No more phone calls. No more texts. No more lies. It was just me now, alone with my thoughts, trying to piece together everything that had happened. I stared ahead, lost in the stillness, until my mind finally began to replay everything with brutal clarity. The first time I met Jessica, how her smile had made everything feel brighter. How I had trusted her. How I had believed in us. That belief had held me together for so long, and now, it had all been shattered. I wasn't some naive guy who had never been through tough situations. Hell, I'd had my share of losses and disappointments. But this? This was different. This wasn't just betrayal. It was something deeper. It was the kind of deceit that tore through you and left you wondering who the hell you even were anymore. It made you question every single choice, every decision you ever made. I turned the ignition and pulled out of the parking lot. The road ahead seemed like an endless blur, just like my thoughts. I wasn't sure where I was going or what I was looking for. I wasn't even sure if I wanted answers anymore. Then, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Jessica. I'm sorry. Please, let's talk. I'll do anything. Anything to make it right. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. The audacity. After everything, after all the lies, she still thought she could make it right. The words were empty now. They meant nothing. She had no power over me anymore. There was no turning back. I didn't bother responding. I couldn't, even if I wanted to. Her words would only make things worse. She could beg, plead, cry, it wouldn't matter. The idea of forgiving her, of somehow piecing it all back together, seemed almost laughable now. There was nothing to fix. The damage had been done, and it was irreversible. I wasn't sure I even wanted to fix it. If this was what she was capable of, then maybe the only thing I needed to do was walk away and never look back. But then I thought of Mark. Mark, the guy who had come into my life like a storm, had wormed his way into my world, and betrayed me without hesitation. He had been part of their little game, their twisted affair. The fact that he was a coward, too, didn't surprise me, but it pissed me off to no end. He had known exactly what he was doing, and now, he was feeling the repercussions. Still, what was I supposed to do with that? Was I supposed to feel sorry for him? A part of me wanted to take everything from him, his pride, his family, his job. Everything he had worked for. But that would only make me just like him, wouldn't it? I'd become the kind of man who would stop at nothing to destroy others, and I couldn't allow myself to be that. No matter how tempting it was. I wasn't a monster. I couldn't become one just to get revenge. But something in me still burned, the anger not quite dissipating, not yet. Maybe there would be a day when I could let go of it all, maybe. But that day wasn't today. I stopped at a light, my fingers drumming absently on the steering wheel. The glow of the streetlights cast shadows that seemed to move in rhythm with the tension building inside me. It was as though everything was on pause. The world had slowed down, and it was just me, battling myself, trying to make sense of a life that felt like it was unraveling at the seams. My phone buzzed again. Another message. Another text from Jessica. Why are you doing this? This isn't you, Nathan. I know you. I know you love me. Please. Let me explain. I felt a cold chuckle bubble up from my throat. She still thought she could explain her way out of this. Still trying to twist it all around to make herself the victim. It was pathetic. Pathetic how she thought she could win me back with empty promises and desperate apologies. I was done listening to her excuses. I took a deep breath and typed one simple message back. There's nothing to explain. It's over. I didn't wait for her reply. I didn't care. For the first time in a long time, I felt something close to clarity. I had made my decision, and I wasn't going to second-guess it. I wasn't going to let her guilt-trip me or manipulate me into feeling sorry for her. No more. I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat again and pressed the gas pedal harder, the car accelerating into the dark night. The wind outside howled as if it, too, was trying to drag me into some unknown, unforgiving place. But this time, I wasn't afraid. This time, I was in control. I didn't need her to feel whole. I didn't need anyone to fill the gaps she had left behind. I was better than that. I was stronger than that. And maybe, just maybe, this was the moment I needed to rebuild myself, not the lies, not the facade of a perfect life I had once tried to hold on to. There were people who would be there for me. Real friends, real family. People who had never betrayed me, never tried to break me apart. I didn't need Jessica, or Mark, or anyone who had played their part in this twisted game. I needed to move on. I drove for what felt like hours, but I didn't care. I didn't need a destination. I just needed to keep moving. Keep pushing forward. Eventually, I found a quiet park, parked my car, and sat in the stillness, staring at the horizon. The night was beginning to break, and the first light of dawn crept over the sky. It felt symbolic, like a new beginning, even if I didn't have all the answers yet. But I was done with the past. I was ready to leave it all behind. The first rays of dawn stretched across the sky, casting a soft, almost serene glow over the park where I sat, the cool air of the early morning brushing against my skin. The night had been long, filled with thoughts that twisted in my mind, each one a reminder of everything I had lost, everything I had endured. But now, with the sun beginning to rise, there was a strange sense of peace settling in. I wasn't sure what the future held, or even where I would go from here. The road ahead was still uncertain, but that uncertainty no longer felt like a weight. It felt like possibility. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of what was to come. I stood up slowly, stretching my arms toward the sky, the movement an almost symbolic gesture. A quiet moment of self-reclamation. I wasn't defined by the betrayal, by the lies, or by Jessica's manipulations. I was defined by what I chose to do next. I had the power to move forward, and that power was all mine. As I walked to my car, the hum of the engine was a stark contrast to the stillness of the park. But even the sound of the engine now seemed comforting, like I was in control, like I was moving forward. I had no idea what the next chapter would look like, but for once, I wasn't consumed with the anger and the hurt. I had found something deeper, strength. The phone buzzed again as I started the engine. Jessica's name flashed across the screen, but I didn't even bother to look. I didn't need to hear the words that would only pull me back into the past. This time, there would be no more wasted energy. No more looking back. No more doubting myself. The last thread of attachment I had to her had unraveled with that last message, and now, I was free. I drove for hours, letting the road take me wherever it wanted. I didn't have a destination in mind, and that was exactly how I wanted it. The world was mine to explore now. And for the first time in a long time, I knew that I wasn't just surviving. I was living again. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the weight of the past began to feel lighter with every passing mile. Whatever had happened, whatever was left behind, had no hold over me anymore. It was time to write my own story. Maybe the pain would always be there in the background, a scar left from the betrayal, but I would no longer let it define me. I was the one who got to decide how my story ended. And this time, it was going to be on my terms. The world was wide open, and for the first time in a long time, I felt ready to take it on. The sun was fully up now, casting its golden light over everything, but it wasn't just the sun that felt like a new beginning. It was me. I felt like a man who had emerged from the rubble of his past, breathing air that was cleaner, lighter. The weight I had carried for so long, Jessica's lies, Mark's betrayal, had finally begun to lift. I sat on the hood of my car, looking out over the horizon. There was a stillness to the morning, but it wasn't the emptiness I had feared. It was something else, something freeing. I wasn't chasing answers anymore. I wasn't looking for closure in people who had already shown me who they really were. I was closing the book on this chapter of my life and letting it stay closed, no matter how painful the story inside had been. I thought of Jessica, of course. She had been everything to me once. I loved her more than I thought I was capable of. But love isn't enough when it's built on deceit. I couldn't keep rebuilding something that had already fallen apart. I realized now that I didn't need her apology. I didn't need her to tell me she was sorry. I had been carrying her weight for so long that I had almost forgotten how to carry myself. But I remembered now. I remembered that I could stand on my own, and I didn't need anyone to validate my worth. I pulled out my phone, staring at it for a long moment. Jessica's name flashed across the screen once again, but I didn't even flinch. I could feel the urge to respond, the guilt, the habit of always trying to fix things. But this time, I didn't need to fix anything. I needed to move forward. I swiped her message away and went to my contacts list. I tapped Mark's name, but I didn't call him. I wasn't even angry anymore, just indifferent. He was part of a past that didn't matter anymore. The rage, the pain, they had all dissolved like smoke in the wind. The version of me who cared enough to want to destroy him? That version was gone. Instead, I found the number of an old friend, someone I had lost touch with years ago. A real friend, someone who had never let me down, who didn't come with baggage. The kind of person who had never betrayed my trust, who had always had my back, even when things were messy. I didn't need to explain everything to them. I didn't need to explain why I had become someone who let himself get walked on. All I needed to do was hear their voice, to remind myself that there were still people in my life who were worth my time. "Hey, it's Nathan," I said when they picked up. "I know it's been a while, but I was wondering if you'd want to grab a drink sometime soon. I've got some things I need to catch up on." Their voice on the other end was warm, welcoming. It felt real. And in that moment, I realized how long I had been craving something genuine. "Of course, man. It's been way too long," they replied. "I'd love to catch up. Let's make it happen." It felt like a sign, a signal that no matter how far off track I had gone, I could always find my way back to something real, something worth fighting for. I didn't have to keep clinging to the wreckage of a past that no longer served me. As I ended the call, I looked out at the sky again. The air felt different, like I was finally breathing again. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was healing. And it wasn't because of Jessica's absence or Mark's failure. It was because I had decided to stop letting them dictate my worth. For the first time in a long time, I smiled. It was a small smile, but it felt like the beginning of something. A real beginning. One where I wasn't shackled by the past, but free to step into whatever came next. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need closure. I just needed to move forward. And with that, I drove off into the open road, the future unwritten, but mine to claim.